All right, and we're live on social media.
What's up,
What's
guys?
up? What's up, BSers? Fred, Scott, special guest Engraven in the house. What's going on,
What's
man?
going on, everybody?
Team Keep It Clean. Good to see you, brother. Appreciate you
You
stopping
too,
through.
man. Oh yeah, appreciate you for having me on, man.
Yeah, for sure. Figure we just kind of throw this quick roundtable together, just a live discussion, kind of talk a little bit about everything that's happened. It's been a while since we've gotten together and talk about Ravens free agent movings, all the signings, the re-signings, and the potential draft stuff. So I thought it'd be a good session for us to kind of just talk a little bit.
Oh man, I'm with it.
Yeah. How you doing, everybody? Staying healthy, hanging in there, good through all this.
Yeah, same old stuff, just a different way.
Right.
Family's good. Got extra time to bond together. But no, that's it's cool, man. It's cool. It does. I think the situation. I mean, we already appreciated stuff already, but this situation will make you appreciate stuff even more. And especially like the day-to-day stuff that you can't do now that you'll be able to do. Once you be able to do it, like it'll be like you might start crying if you go to the mall or something because it'll be like, oh wow, I can do this again, man. But
Right.
it's all good, man. Everything will work itself out in time.
Yeah,
Everything will be tears of joy.
yeah. It'll definitely give you a little bit more appreciation for all the small things that you get to do, once you get back out
Exactly.
there. And like you said earlier, just being able to kind of walk around, get out on your bike, man, do something to get some sunlight in your life, get out there and
Mhm.
get, be active, try to stay mobile as much as you can anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, so like I said, it's been a while since we talked Ravens. And I haven't really had a chance to get your opinion on a couple things. I know you put out a ton of content and everything pretty much every day.
Mhm.
Obviously, the big move to start the offseason was the trade for Calais Campbell. So I just wanted to get your take, man. When that trade first went down, what was your initial reaction to that?
That I can't leave yet because I was literally getting ready to walk out the door. Then I looked at my phone and I saw Ravens traded for Calais Campbell, so I had to come back. And ended up being a little bit late to where I was going to, but it's all good. Um, I perfect fit, man. It
Yeah.
seems like the Ravens this offseason, not to jump ahead anything, but with guys like Derek Wolf too, Calais Campbell and Derek Wolf, it seems like they're getting guys that really fit their mold
Right.
and fit what the Ravens are about and fit that sort of that swagger, that attitude. Guys that's not flashy guys that's not looking for all this attention and whatnot, but dudes that could just come in and work. And they obviously trying to upgrade that interior pass rush, or the pass rush
Right.
period, because it was pretty bad last year.
Right.
But with Calais Campbell, I thought it was a perfect fit. He's somebody that he just been putting in work for a while now. Ever since he was with the Cardinals, and then obviously with the Jaguars, he's been somebody that's been a consistent, productive defensive lineman.
Yeah.
And with the Ravens, another reason why I say he really fits where they're trying to go right now is because of both on and off the field.
Right.
Obviously, Ravens, they have been through some things off the field, but the type of guys that they're going right for right now is guys that on the field they beasts, they nasty and all that, but off the field they got real good character.
Right.
And that's what a guy like Calais Campbell is, because he's a nominee for the Walter Payton Man. Did he actually win the Walter Payton Man of the Year? Did he
Yeah,
win it?
he
I
was the
think
man of
so.
the year
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
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 So even better. And then they got to get sort of an up close and personal look at him at the Pro Bowl. So it ended up working itself out. So I thought it was a perfect move. And then to only get him, I know they were taking on his contract, which was a $15 million cap hit. I know it's lowered a little bit, but to get him for a fifth round pick, and I know
Yeah.
the Jaguars were having a fire sale, but still to get Calais Campbell for a fifth round pick, EDC. So I don't know what he got on these other GMs, man, but that dude is real deal, man.
And, the funny thing about the Calais Campbell move is if you just look at the surface of it, you look at his age, right? You're thinking, how much more can we squeeze out of this orange, right? But his last 4 years in Jacksonville were his best 4 years of his career, right? So it just goes to show that Eric DeCosta and this Ravens organization over the years has been able to find these type of values, guys that are maybe late in their career, looking to pursue a ring. They got that drive. It's not about the money anymore, although it is a good amount of money that we're spending on him. It's not about the money first and foremost for him. It's more about that opportunity to win and play in a winning organization. Scott, I know you were pretty high on Calais Campbell prior to the move, and then pretty happy once that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I loved kind of exactly what you said, Graven. It is the fact that he's a man of the year tells you exactly what you need to know, right?
Mhm.
That means he's a performer on and off the field. If you're not a performer on the field, let's be real, you're not getting the best, votes when it comes to the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, because that's what it's all about. It's on the field and off the field. So I thought it was a great fit. I think it absolutely made sense. The one thing that I think started to get all of us excited, right? And Graven, I really want to get your take on this. Got us all excited was they do that, and then what do they turn around and do? They sign free agent Michael Brockers, or let me rephrase that: they sign
Had an
free agent
agreement
Michael
in place to
Brockers.
sign Michael Brockers.
Yeah, it's got the air quotes in there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to everything that happened, we're hearing rumors of, it was something having to do with the last injury report. We know that because of when it happened, they could not have a independent, or they could have an independent, but they couldn't have a team doctor go look at him. Um, so I'm curious to get your take on the whole Brocker situation where it kind of fell apart there. What was your initial reaction when they were talking, hey, we've got him to an agreement, and then what about when the deal kind of basically fell apart?
I loved it, man. I was so hyped when they got Michael Brockers in, because it showed that Eric DeCosta, and he showed it to us during the season last year, that he's never done. He's never finished. He never stops working. And literally every week he was signing somebody new, bringing somebody up, and then cutting somebody, unfortunately. But he didn't stop trying to make the team better.
Right.
And even though this team, they went 14-2, but they went 14-2 despite not having a good pass rush, despite not being able to really cause consistent interior pressure on that defensive line, but just really pressure, period. So he took a 14-2 season, and then he said, wait a minute, how can I improve? So yeah, he got a Calais Campbell, but then still got a Michael Brockers too. And with the Broncos, I'm like, oh yeah, let's get it, man. I'm loving this. And I also thought that something I also thought about those moves was that they could possibly be a reflection on how the team feels about Judon, especially with them
Mhm.
franchise tagging him. And the
Right.
reason I say that is because with them franchise tagging him, they obviously haven't come to a long-term agreement. I know there were talks before saying that they were talking about a long-term agreement with Judon, but they haven't come to anything.
Right.
But with those moves, I feel like they are setting up Judon to where he could possibly play on a franchise tag, just so they can have one more look at him. But to how they're setting up Judon to be like, okay, Judon, look, we're gonna put you in the best situation possible. Let's see what you got. Are you that real deal? Can you take another big step forward, or are you just okay? We'll see.
Right.
But with Broncos, I was hyped about it. But then when they started coming out talk that the Ravens they wanted to renegotiate his deal or the agreement because of the whole thing with the high ankle sprain from last year, I wasn't really worried about it. I was like, oh, that stuff happens. They'll figure it out. They'll be fine. He'll sign a deal, and it ain't no big deal. So then the very next day,
That's exactly how Fred was.
Yep. Exactly.
very
Yeah. So
next day. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so that kind of preempts my next question, right? So you had the Brockers deal, which for me, I was happy about for all the same reasons you were, right? It was gives the Ravens more versatility on that front line. When you add Brockers and Campbell, these are guys that you can line up pretty much anywhere on the defensive front. When you have, Pierce and Williams up front, they're those nose tackle, run stuffing, big body defensive tackles that you have up front, but you can't
Mhm.
really do anything as far as shuffling them outside, right?
Right. That's
So
that's a good point.
so all that did was give them more versatility. And when you're talking about Wink Martindale, this is a guy that's about as creative gets, right? So that's why I was so excited. Now, obviously, the Michael Brockers deal falls apart, and I started panicking. I'm like, damn, what I had visioned in my head, what are we going to do to replace that? And he
Mhm.
goes out a guy like Derek Wolf from Denver. And here's why I think this Derek Wolf
Hopefully you guys can hear me now. What's going on, man?
Hey, no.
Sorry, we were going and now we're having technical difficulties because Engraven and Fred were both on.
Oh. Let's see. I see a lot of messages in the group. Let's see.
All right, apparently I gotta send them the new invite. That's what happens when you try and use something new.
Right.
Thinking it's free and it ain't. It said that our free meeting time was up. I was like, what the heck?
I've been on it a bunch this weekend. Sometimes it would be like your host qualified for extended time without paying for it.
Huh.
Fred says he's waiting to be let in.
What the hell's going on? Man. All right, can you guys hear me?
Fred should be good.
Yeah, man. I don't know what
Sorry
that was
about
all
that, guys.
about. Sorry about that, fellas.
Yeah, it was saying your free time is up. Your free meeting is up.
So does that mean we only get to run for like 5 minutes at a time or something? What is that
I
about?
don't know. I have no idea.
All right, let me go back on Restream and I'll stream it back out.
Coach, what up, man?
What up, Engraven? How you doing?
How you doing, man? Good.
Finally ice these lumps down I took yesterday.
Hey, Scott, it's not showing the stream in the. I mean, it's showing the stream, but it's showing like a white screen.
Hang on. How about now?
Might take a second because you're on a little bit of a delay on that. Yeah, there you go.
Let's try this again.
All right, we'll try it again.
Oh.
All right, and we're back out there live, man. I don't apologize for the technical difficulties there. I don't know what the heck happened. Apparently, Zoom knew we were having a little too much fun, so it decided to kick us off there. Joining us on the show as well, Coach Evans, Sip to Tally. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, follow him on YouTube. Does a real good job of breaking down the football games. Appreciate you chiming in and taking the time with us, Coach.
Oh, no problem. A pleasure to be here.
So I'll pick up where I left off, right? We had kind of talked about the Brockers deal falling apart and Derek Wolfe kind of coming in. So the reason I think that this is a better deal for the Ravens is because it doesn't handicap us past this year, right? So that Michael Brockers deal was going to be a 3-year, $30 million deal, which I don't think was a bad move for Brockers. I don't think it's a bad contract for Brockers. But when we know that these big contracts for Marlon are coming up, we got, Megatron coming up with Ronnie Stanley, the decision they got to make there. And Tunzel's already talking about 20 mil. So what's Stanley going to get at that point? The potential for a deal with obviously Lamar in the next couple of years. This is a deal where you get Derek Wolfe, a player who's had some injury questions, come in on a prove it type deal. You kind of get him and, probably in his top form. And if it works out, everything that you've heard about this guy, everything interview wise you've heard so far is that he wanted to be here. Maybe you kind of, you kind of evaluate how he does for a year. And if he does really good, you get him back on a team friendly kind of deal. What's your guys' thoughts, Coach?
Well, I think money wise is gonna help us out because we got a huge bunch of paydays coming up, like you said,
Right.
and from looking at his film, he's not Michael Brockers, but
Right.
he's a good player also, and to be like a prove it deal, he can come in and complement. They can all complement each other. Don't really have to have we won't have a monster on the line other than Campbell, but Wolf can kind of feed off Campbell the way he fed off of Von Miller because Wolf and Von Miller's chemistry was so good. If
Right.
you go back and look at them when they run their twists, they ran it almost to perfection. Von Miller would come right off his butt because he knew the kind of pressure and the kind of ball good off Wolf would get. And so if he can get that bond with even Judon,
That's what I was going to say. With Judon, all that's going to do is up his production, which is going to up his payday come next year. Hey, Graven, what's your thoughts on it?
Hey, that's a real good point you talked about, Coach, with the chemistry between him and Von Miller. Because like in his interview, he talked about that. He talked about that to the T. He's like, yeah, me and Von Miller, we knew each other in and out, and they like you said, they had that real good chemistry. But something else that you talked about was how he could possibly get a new deal. And of course, Ravens got a lot of decisions to make coming up real soon. And things might get a little rough, man, because everybody can't be a Raven for life, man. That's just the business. But Eric DeCosta got some tough decisions to make. But with Derek Wolfe, he's on a 1 year, up to $6 million deal. And I love how he said that he's in prove it now mode. He wants to prove it, and he wants to show that that he wants the Ravens to sign him to an extension when the time comes. He wants to prove that he's worth an extension. So money-wise, yeah, it ends up working itself out better than the Brockers deal. And hopefully it does play-wise too. Hopefully him and whether it's Judon or whether it's somebody else, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully those two can get that chemistry going, and then that whole defensive line, that whole pass rush and run stopping too now.
Right.
The whole defensive line, they can gel and they can click right away.
Well, also joining us on the feed, big fan of the show and a guy that's on social media with us all the time, chiming in, Twitter. Garnett, appreciate you chiming in. Might want to unmute your mic there so we can hear you. But so where we're at, we're talking about the Michael Brockers fallout and the Derek Wolfe signing. What's your take on those two situations?
Oh, first of all, thank you for inviting me on to the little get together, to the shindig.
Yeah, man. Sure.
Thanks for all y'all's work and everything. So hopefully the take that I have that I wanted to discuss with y'all, he reminds me of a Justin Smith from the 49ers back in the day with Aldon Smith, if you remember that.
Aldon Smith. Yeah.
Justin Smith did a lot of dirty work to make Aldon Smith be an all-pro before he had this little, troubling, I guess the beginning of his troubling past, I guess I can say that now. But he held on to guards, the tackles for the loops. He did a lot of dirty work, and I see that a lot of production, as you gentlemen already stated, that Judon is about to see double-digit sacks in no time, and that's what I see from Derek Wolfe in that situation. The Michael Brockers, I love to have him on the team. I felt like either or would have done great things, but I'm leaning toward Derek Wolfe because I feel like he understands his role already to this day already. What do you guys think about that?
No, I completely agree with you on that. My question would be outside linebacker. Now that we've made these moves, right, and now that we're getting this interior pass rush that we have never had or we haven't had over the last couple of years, and bringing back Matt Judon on a franchise tag, so we've got him locked up. Does this change your guys' outlook for the upcoming draft? And what should we be looking at potentially an edge rusher, that outside linebacker early in the draft still, even with these additions, Coach?
It changed my mind because I have faith in the guys out there, especially if Judon stays. I have faith in Judon. I have faith in Ferguson development. I have faith in Bowser because we're going to get interior pressure from other guys now. And even we still can stick Brandon in there and get some run stopping things, but now we got guys that can do both, and so that's just going to help them guys out. It's going to help the edge guys out, especially when we get in the little pass rush package.
Right.
That's a good point.
And Graven, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, man, that's that does make sense. I think the only thing that I'm wondering about, because I mean we just don't know what their plan is with Judon. Because yeah, they did franchise tag him, but he ain't signed anything yet. He
Right.
ain't signed anything. So if they are to trade him, he has to initiate that, or they can initiate it with a team, but nothing will go down unless he signs a tag. So much depends on if and when he signs a tag. Because if he doesn't sign it before the draft, ain't no trading him.
Right.
But if they so it's a lot with that. But if I'm just going off of now, if they're gonna keep Judon, if they're gonna keep him on the tag, cool. But yeah, like I said earlier, this puts him in a better situation. Because like you said, it's interior and exterior pass rushing. It helps everybody. It makes everybody's job that much easier. With Judon, is he the best pass rusher in the world? No, he's not. But he ain't have really any interior pressure. Ravens weren't getting any interior pressure last season.
Right.
So he was out there struggling. So, but this will just make his job and his life easier because essentially he's in another contract year if he does end up playing on that franchise tag. So of course you want these players to be motivated every single year because this is their job, blah blah blah. But obviously, like if we liken it to us in the real world, if we know that if we performed good this year, then we're gonna get a big raise next year. So you know what
Right.
I'm putting in everything. So with Judon, it could be the same thing. Even though this is his job or whatnot, he knows he puts in that work, he's gonna get paid big time, whether it's from the Ravens or somebody else. So he's essentially on a contract year, but so is Bowser as well. He's also in a contract year. So these
Right.
dudes will be extra motivated on top of getting all this interior pressure help too. So
Right.
I think it should be a good season for both of them.
So Scott and Garnett, that brings up another point. A coach had mentioned in passing, he mentioned Jalen Ferguson, right? So that's an area where I'm looking to see some improvement is out of these second year guys, right? So we didn't see much out of Miles Boykin that we had hoped. We didn't see much out of Jalen Ferguson that we'd hoped, right? What are we looking for from those two guys in year two? Are we looking for Ferguson to have that much of a bigger role this year in during the season, Scott?
I think he's got to. I think, we saw a little bit out of him last year. We talked about it. My grade for him was a little bit lower. He didn't show all the explosiveness that I felt we saw, obviously, in college. I think when he got to the level of the NFL, I think it's playing a little bit too fast for him. And I think he needs to learn to keep up with that speed. We were not seeing him when he was out there. He wasn't able to really do as good of a job edge rushing. Obviously we talked about 2.5 sacks is all he had this year. Fred, you were calling for potential double-digit sacks out of him.
I was
this
hoping,
year.
man. I was really hopeful out of the guy. I was.
Because he, as we said, he broke Suggs' college record.
Right.
So for this guy, we had high expectations, and he really just didn't hit them. And some people are saying, well, he didn't get the time to hit them. Well, he didn't get the time to hit them because he wasn't showing that he could do it in practice. If he's showing he can do that in practice, I guarantee you Harbaugh's putting him on the field. Or let me rephrase that. Wink is putting him on the field. Wink is not going to let a guy that has that much talent sit on the bench. If he's showing he can handle it, he's going to do it. I think he didn't do it. I need to see him step up that. I think I need to see him, work on setting that edge a little bit more. And the one thing I did see when he was getting up to the line, he was getting manhandled at sometimes. He needs to use his arms. And I think, honestly, that's going to come from a little bit more upper body workouts. He's going to have to be able to shove, get that full extension. And that's what's going to allow him to get more sacks and really be even more effective.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the one knock out of him coming out of college was he was a one-trick pony, right? He was a guy that was just a bull rusher. That was pretty much all he was, and we saw that in this first year. And you're right. For me, just looking at his body, I think he could put some time in the weight room. I think he could get himself in a little bit better shape. Garnett, what's your take on Jalen Ferguson? What you saw out of him year one, and what you're expecting to see out of him year two?
All right. So first of all, I remember the podcast you guys put out a while back about Sack Daddy, and we remember we were talking about how the level of play, the level of competition really showed up big time in this rookie season, and we was talking about how his body wasn't really filled out as it should be for that potential. So hopefully that year two is like a reset. Like, okay, I know where I need to be. and I know what I need to do. I understand the system. Wink is not, I wouldn't say Wink has like the most complicated system, but he needs to understand his responsibilities, which I think he does now. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now with the situation. And I really think he could be the next. I think he can take the next level. I think I can see him as a Darius Smith, being able to rotate from the 5 technique to the 3 technique. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Engraven.
Well, yeah, I am. I'm hoping that for Ferg that he does take that leap forward, that jump forward, and just use, because he got a decent size. Sometimes he looks a little, I don't want to say sloppy, but he got a decent size. So I just want him to use his body more, use that strength, use that power, and like Garnett said, maybe it's developing more upper body strength. And using his arms more to just gain leverage on the offensive tackle he's going up against. But I just with him, I think that he was very, I don't want to say raw, but like Garnett said too, the level of competition was it's obviously a big jump from going from college to the pros, and it showed. Cause I like how my guy Nubo, he calls him pressure daddy. Say he can't call him sack daddy, he calls him pressure daddy. Cause we get some pressure now and then, but the sacks don't come like that. And it's like with him, he was under, I can't say a lot of pressure, but the level of pressure that he was under did rise, because he wasn't supposed to even get that much playing time, because we still had Pernell McPhee. Pernell McPhee was ahead of him, but then when Pernell McPhee tore his triceps, then Ferguson got to get a lot. Yeah, he got forced into the lineup. But I'm just hoping that he can learn some things from Calais Campbell, from Wolf. He can just learn some things from the guys ahead of him, but still get a decent amount of playing time. And like Garnett did mention too, if Wink, if he ain't seeing it on a practice field, then you most likely aren't going to be out there. And like that same thing can be applied with the offense as well, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day with those receivers. But anyway, hey, I gotta go now. I appreciate y'all for allowing me to be on this. And
man, appreciate
y'all real quick.
Appreciate you coming in. Yeah, appreciate you coming, man.
Y'all
stay safe.
Keep doing your thing, man.
All right,
appreciate it, man. All right, Garnett. All right, Coach, Fred.
See you, man.
Big.
See you,
all
man.
right, so he's going to sign off talking about, he just kind of dropped in with wide receivers. So we'll stay with those second-year guys, right? Miles Boykin, obviously. Last year in the preseason, preseason and training camp, he showed flashes where I thought he was going to have a pretty big impact year one. He gets out there in game time, and there's a couple of things that I'm kind of worried about with Miles Boykin. Is how much chemistry does he have with Lamar? Is it Lamar just not reading through his progressions and getting too caught up on Andrews and Hollywood? Like, what's your guys' take on Miles Boykin? Do you think that he's still savable? Do you think he's a guy that, will actually have a good impact on this offense in this coming year? Or do you think that we're going to have some pieces come in through this draft that might supplant his role in this upcoming year? Coach, I'll let you start.
Well, my thing is, if Boykin was extremely serious about getting on the field this year, his butt would be somewhere in South Florida.
Agreed.
Right now. With even though AB's out there with them, even though AB's out there with Hollywood and Lamar, his butt would be somewhere in that area trying to get that work and that chemistry if he was serious about it. Because if he's in South Bend or wherever he's from, he to me, he's not serious. He just want to show up, and if I'm the quarterback, I'm gonna throw the guys I trust.
Right.
I trust Hollywood. I trust Andrews. I trust Hurst. I trust Boyd. I probably trust Chris Moore more than I trust Boyd.
Ooh, that's strong words. That's real strong.
I'm sorry,
words.
not Chris Moore. I meant Roberts. I'm sorry. I meant Roberts.
Oh, right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say.
I apologize.
Coach, you've been watching the same games we've been watching.
No, because the thing is, when we signed Roberts last year, it was like we were signing Chris Moore, and I just that thought was still in my head. I still get them confused. I meant Roberts.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Garnett, what's your take on Miles Boykin, man? Are you still high on Boykin? Do you think he still has a good impact on this offense? What's the deal?
I'm like 50-50, man. like, so the saving grace I would say for Boykin is the fact that we didn't use him like I thought we would have. Like this, if you think about all the big plays that you've seen him made big, big statements on, is for like, deep balls, like against the Seattle game. That's the first thought I think of, the Seattle game, where he had like a deep post. I believe it was a deep post. And basically he one-on-one, he had better position and got it. And I from what we did with him, I feel like we didn't use him to his strengths at all. That's what I believe. So that's what really makes me think that we really is, can we really count him taking the next step, or will the coaching opportunity, will the coaching put him in a position to make that next step? That's my biggest thing about Boykins, because the fact that I see him as a guy that can draw out the PI calls, and which we didn't put him in the opportunities to do that. That's the only thing that was me, is the fact that like he should be. I call it Tory ball, because like Torrey Smith was the king of drawing the PI calls, and we didn't throw enough Tory balls at him to gain those opportunities to see. That's what I would say. But so with that being said, I would like to see him work on his route tree, because if they're going to use him how they're using him, he has no choice but to become better with those out routes. Like his out routes are like so cringeworthy to me, because the fact that the DBs are literally sitting at like the 6 yards and waiting for it. They know it's coming, and a lot of interceptions that Lamar had were because of those ugly out routes that he was doing. I don't know what's y'all takes on. That's why I just feel like he just needs a better opportunity.
I do. I think he needs a better opportunity. I do think that Lamar kind of needs to go through his progressions a little bit more, and that's a step I expect to see him make from his first full year to year two. But I do think Boykin, I expected him with just his overall size to have more of an effect in like the red zone. I expected him to be more of that. I don't want to compare him to like Anquan Bolden. I just thought that he would have the physicality to be able to compete for those like short yardage situations where he can do a comeback route and get that 4 or 5 yards, those tough yards that they need, and just be able to use his physicality to keep a corner away. And we just didn't see that, man. We didn't see that use out of him at all. So I'm really hoping that the Ravens do something to get him more involved next year. He did have questionable hands at times this year, which kind of surprised me too. I didn't think that was a big question mark out of him. He dropped a few balls. Scott, what was your take on Miles Boykin?
You're muted. Up to unmute. Yeah, for me, I'm right there with you with Boykin. I think part of the problem was Lamar not going through his progressions, like everybody said, and I think it really comes down to once he gets the ball a little bit more, he develops that relationship. Coach, you brought up the idea of, why is he not down, in Florida? And three people have chimed in on social media saying, well, he doesn't live in Florida like the other guys. Yeah, but the season's been over for how long now? He could have been down there before that even happened. And I get that, but you're not hearing it. You're not seeing him working out. You're not seeing him put out the videos of working out. And, maybe he is. That time's going to tell. But he needs to step up this year. And show that he's put the quote unquote hands issues behind him. I really don't think it was the hands issues. I think some of it was some throws, and Lamar still working on hitting a guy in the chest all the time, or putting it where he can get it. There's been a few that have hit Boykin in the chest. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, in my opinion. I think you really got to give him the chance to develop that. I want to see him develop it, but if he doesn't, I'm honestly starting to worry at that point. If he's starting to drop more balls, or it's getting in his head, I'm hoping we don't have another head case on our hands.
Yeah, but I can just say, if as us as a panel, if we can recognize that there's chemistry issues, right, then he should be doing everything. We obviously see Lamar putting in the work, right? We see some of these other receivers putting in the work. If we're aware of it, he should be aware of it, and he should be doing everything that he can to put in the time and put in the work with Lamar down there in Florida, one way or the other, find his way down there to make that happen. But so that brings up my next point, right? So we're talking about a couple guys from the 2019 draft. Let's talk about the 2020 draft coming up, right? So we're sitting at the number 28 overall pick, and if you kind of look through all the mocks that everybody's doing right now, because nobody's got anything better to do at this point. Everybody's doing 1,000,001 mock drafts, including myself. That it's been everything from wide receiver to inside linebacker to edge rusher to offensive lineman. I've even seen safeties taken at the first round, right? My first question is going to be, we have some riches this year that we haven't had in years past, meaning we have 2 second-round picks, we have 2 third-round picks, we have 2 fourth-round picks. We've got some serious depth in this draft, and some good depth in this draft. This might be one of the first years that we see the Ravens get a little aggressive potentially and trade up in the draft, right? So if you're sitting at, shout out to our boy SCG Sports on Twitter and on YouTube. If you don't follow him, make sure you go follow him. Him and I did a stream together, and we looked at, he had some kind of tracker that basically evaluated if you were to trade up in the draft, how much capital you'd have to get to a certain spot. And we saw a significant drop at pick 17, right? When you get to pick 17, if you're trading up to 17 and lower, you don't have to give up near as much capital, right? So my question to you is, and I'll let you start, Coach, if you're sitting at 28 and you come to pick 17 and you know at pick 17, you don't have to give up a ton of draft capital to get there. You've got a guy like wide receiver Jerry Jeudy sitting out there. You've got Clavon Chason sitting out there. You've still got your 2 inside linebackers, Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen, sitting out there. Are you making a move to get up the draft board and get a playmaking receiver like a Jerry Jeudy, or an outside guy like Clavon Chason?
If we're going to move up, and this is totally me.
Yep.
It does not need to be for a receiver, because there are too many good ones out there. There's no need to risk draft capital for a receiver. If we're going to go up, it has to be for an edge guy, a premier edge guy. Premier, the linebackers, I think there was enough inside linebackers for us to get good value at 28 or in the second round, because the 2 guys everybody's thinking of, I don't necessarily think they're inside linebackers. I think they're 4-3 Sam and Will. But that's my 2 cents. So I would not trade draft capital to go to 17 unless it's for a guy like Chason.
Okay.
Other than that, I would stay at 28. I would stay at 28. And me personally, everybody know who I would pick at 28. And that's Cushionberry.
Right. Gotcha. Garnett, you got the pick of the litter. You're sitting at 28, right? And you've got the potential to trade up to 17 to get your boy. I know you're high on Denzel Mims, wide receiver out of Baylor. But obviously Jerry Jeudy, he's one of the best route runners in this draft. He's obviously already been working with Lamar down in Florida. We've seen some chemistry there. Are you making a move to 17 to get a wide receiver like Jerry Jeudy, or maybe an edge rusher like Chason?
So I believe I'll pick, like, unlike Coach, I saw his top 6, I would say top 6 or 7, where the coach posted a while back a video about the wide receivers. I believe we say this is a deep wide receiver class, and I get it, but let's be honest, there's a difference between good wide receivers and premier. And the premier is CD, Jeudy, Ruggs, and maybe my guy Mims. Like, I've been over Mims for like the past 3-4 months. But that's what I believe. And I feel like as soon as one of them go, all 4 are going to go. And then Jefferson, I'm telling you, there's going to be a huge run. I feel it in my bones. There can be a huge run at that 16 or 17 mark to where we have no choice but to move up, like where you're pointing at. I would definitely shoot, if I could, at the 17 mark. I would try to trade not this year's draft picks, but the next year's draft picks to capitalize on making that move up. In my perspective, I would definitely go for a receiver, like how Coach was talking about, but with those linebackers. Not many people are not really talking about it, but the middle linebacker or linebacker class in general is off-ball linebackers is pretty deep. You got Malik Harrison. You got Akeem Gaither. I believe I pronounced the name correctly. You got my guy I've been raving about. I mean, I don't even got to say his name, Willie Gay. There's Troy Dye. If you really think about it, there's so much depth that you can capitalize with that second round pick or the second that we had. So I would make my efforts to get that receiver, because if you say, oh, everybody has that mentality, well, I'm starting to trend, oh, we're going to wait, we can get a receiver in the draft. Think about how slow the market was with the receiver class for free agency. Robbie Anderson didn't leave week 3 or 4, and he was supposed to be the hottest thing on the streets. So that's how I'm going at it. Everybody has the philosophy that, oh, the receivers are going to be there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be just like a Lamar Jackson jersey. It's going to be gone before you even get to the. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there as far as the wide receivers go, because the way I kind of look at this class is like I look at all the number 1 wide receivers in the NFL right now, right? There's every NFL team, all 32 teams have a number 1 wide receiver on their team, quote unquote, a number 1 wide receiver on their team. But there's tiers to it, right? As far as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on, right? Through that. And tier 1 are those top 3 wide receivers that you're talking about. Mims is maybe like a 1A, 2A, like he's between a 1 and 2 for me. I think fit wise, he's in 1 for us. So I think if you're just listening to some of the comments that Eric DeCosta's made about putting as many playmakers around Lamar Jackson as he possibly can, I personally think this might be a year that we actually see them trade up for a guy like a Jerry Jeudy or Ruggs, or, you know, a guy that can make a difference and be that legit number 1 receiver. And you pair him with Hollywood, man, who are you going to cover at that point? Scott, what's your take on it? Do you see the Ravens trading up, or do you see him staying put at 28?
I mean, I could see them trading up. It's got to be for the right situation. But one of the things that really bothers me, and you guys kind of went along, all seem to kind of go along a little bit different path, but one thing that really bothers me, a lot of people on social media are calling for the edge rusher, kind of like you said, Coach, where you're looking for that guy that can solidify. Let's not forget what this defense has done previously. Yes, we know what happened in the playoffs, but this defense put the team in a position to win every game for 14 straight games. That's impressive. I get why people are saying edge rusher. I get why people are saying linebacker. But there's something that we have to remember. There is a giant question mark, in my opinion, around this offensive line and their ability to protect Lamar Jackson. You need to look and seriously consider the potential of trading up for an offensive lineman, one of these top tier offensive linemen, like I think you say Drift is his name, or you have Thomas is another one out of Georgia. I know he's got a lot of solid piece behind me. He's expected to go somewhere in between the 10 to 15 range, but you want to protect your future. And we have a lot of question marks right now. We have Yonda who's left. You have Skura who's come back from an injury. He looks good, but I'm gonna knock on wood when I say this. Fred, you're gonna kill me when I say this. But when it comes to this, I get scared that they rush him out there too quickly because they don't have somebody. And now Skura gets hurt even worse than he already is coming back. We saw that, in my opinion, they rushed Hollywood back. So the fact that they rushed him back tells me I think they would rush Skura back. I very truly think they would rush Skura back. So I think this is where we've seen them address in the offseason. We've seen them address the defense. We really haven't seen them address the offense. And that's where I think it comes in the draft. If they trade up, I personally would trade up for an offensive lineman. If the wide receiver is there, it depending on who it is and how it plays out. But I think you also need to look at getting protection for Lamar. And it's such a big question mark for me right now that I think it's going overlooked because everybody's focusing on the edge and what happened and how we got gashed in that Tennessee game with the run game. That they're focusing on that. So I look at it and I say, if I'm trading up, it's that offensive line. Coach, I know you were sitting there like praising me for that. What's your thoughts on that?
You got to, because my thing is, and it's not exactly what you're saying, but it kind of leads back to it. The run game is what protects the entire team.
Yeah.
But if you notice let's go back to when Joe was still on the team. We threw the ball so much, the defense were always on the field, they were tired. Once we transitioned to Lamar, the defense would come out there rested because we had long drives. Our run game and time of possession is what spurred us to make the playoffs when Lamar first got there, and was a huge indicator of us winning 14 games last year. And so if we can't run the ball and have them 5 guys up front dominate, The rest of the stuff is gonna come back. It's gonna cycle back because we don't. I love Stanley. I love Zeus. We're not great pass blockers. We're okay pass blockers at most, and so we need to run the ball, and we need to have at least 4 guys up there that's gonna get nasty so we can run the ball. Because that.
But do you honestly? And my question is, do you honestly think that there's somebody in this draft that can make an immediate impact day one, come in and be a legitimate replacement for a Yanda?
They won't be Yanda capability, but just think about the interior that we have now. We got 2 great tackles.
Yep.
And we're at best average from guard to guard. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, from guard to guard, we're average. Stanley's good. I'm not Stanley. Zeus is good. Stanley's great. But from guard to guard, we're okay. And it's not far-fetched to say a rookie can't come in there and take one of them jobs and be productive. And on
I just don't know.
You got a red shirt year for Ben Bowers too.
Exactly. And that's my question mark is like, I don't know what to expect out of Ben Powers because I think Bradley Bozeman, in my opinion, I think he made strides from the beginning of last year to the end of last year. I think he looks a lot better.
Agree.
His footwork's better. He just looks more comfortable in the role. He seemed to get the offense towards the end of the year better. Ben Powers is obviously the big question mark, but if Matt Skura comes back and he takes over the center role, Pat McCarry was a guard in college, right? And he came in and did pretty admirable at center, I thought, in a replacement of Skura. So you do have McCarry there. I 100% agree that offensive line needs to be taken early in this draft. And Garnett, you and I have kind of gotten into discussions about this on Twitter. I think that offensive line is definitely a dire need, but is it something that's really worth the value in the first round? Like potentially not taking an impact player, right? So we know, this is just my opinion, but inside linebacker we know is an immediate need because, not only did they lose Josh Bynes, but we weren't that great to begin with at inside linebacker. We know that that's an immediate need. DeCosta's talked about putting more playmakers around Lamar, right? So the potential for a wide receivers there in the first round. Do you think it's the right move taking a offensive guard in the first round, Garnett?
I don't think. How I've been classifying my wants and needs. So I say our needs is receiver, linebacker, and then maybe a guard. Now, my wants is anything after that. I feel like that we should go receiver first, and then hopefully by the second we have, I'll say we shoot for a guard or say a center or wherever we want to see fit. Wherever we see fit at that time. But I feel that perfect example, McCarry. No one could tell you anything about McCarry when he stepped on the field when he replaced Skura. And he did a hell of a job. I'm not gonna fake the funk and say that, Lamar Jackson and the running game literally helped everyone in the interior out, especially Lamar. I believe so. Because the fact that he's able to create things or he's able to take the pressure off the lineman in certain ways because now the tackles and the ends have to consider, do I really want to go in and shoot for it, or should I wait and see what unfolds? I don't know. That's my take. I'm not going to try to talk about too long, but what do you guys think about that situation or that thought of that perspective, I should say?
Scott?
Sorry, I'm having technical issues. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, so I think we've got like 5 minutes real quick before we get kicked off again on this free stream. I want to get everybody's takes really quickly because it's been obviously talked about on social media now for the last few days pretty heavily until today's news broke. Antonio Brown has been down there working out with Lamar. Yeah, I see you, Garnett, right? It's funny to me how quick everybody is to turn the eye to everything that's been Antonio Brown's problems through his past, right? He's got obviously the domestic violence case that's looming. He's got rape allegations that are looming. Like there's all these things. When you're talking about on-field talent, there's no denying that he could still be a top 5 wide receiver tomorrow if he got back into the league. He keeps himself in great shape. He still looks great running routes. He looked just as fast as Hollywood out there, which, I mean, again, when you're talking football ability, this guy's got the ability, but the cancer, in my opinion, that he would be to this locker room and what he would be, the detrimental distraction he would be to this team, I just don't think it's worth it. And the fact that there's so many fans out there that really, that's all they focus on. They focus on the impact that he could have on this team is mind-blowing to me. Coach, what's your take on Antonio Brown and the potential, if it was any potential at any point, of him joining the Ravens?
1 year deal, about a centimeter leash, be done with it.
Right.
1 year deal, full of incentives. If you fart too loud, get him out of here. And that's the way I feel about it. But even if we don't sign him, I'm cool. But if we did, you wouldn't hear me complain. But it would be very incentive laden. I think that's the word I'm looking for. And
right.
You just know you don't have a grace of one mess up, just anything. And if there's something in the past that may come out, we need to know about it. Well, not we, but the powers that be need to know beforehand, to go deal with it. But if he's on the team, I'm fine with it, as long as he, no, you can't be other than the normal questions, how they feel to be back in the league and stuff like that. But you can't do nothing outside of football that sheds any more light that's gonna already be on you. And if so, you're gone just as fast as you got here.
Right. Steve said it on Facebook in his chat too. He said that, he has no problem with Jackson working with AB, and neither do I, man. Honestly, them working out together is doing nothing but helping him get better, right? He's got one of the best wide receivers in the game, basically telling him where to put the ball and where he will be coming out of his breaks and all that. So I like him working out with him, but that's where I draw the line. After the workouts, that's it. Go home, have a nice day, see you later. Garnett, what's your take? I know I've seen you post on Twitter a couple things about same type thing, an incentive-laden deal. You're still in that same mindset?
I'm completely done. You know how you're like, well, the day could be better if you do this, right? And then the next day it just turns to a shit sandwich. Like it's happened. Like, I was like, that would be the perfect emergency plan after all the allegations. Like literally, he was for a record month. He was scot clean. You didn't hear nothing crazy about him. You just see him working out all the time. Like maybe, I seen a couple of interviews he was doing with other sources or whatever. Seemed like, he was saying the right things. Maybe I started to believe in it. And then, I put out maybe he could be a perfect emergency plan. And then you're like, no, man, no. I was like, all right, cool. And then next thing you know, that comes out yesterday. I'm like, well, never mind. I don't even want nothing a part of him. And besides that, if we do sign him, he probably not gonna be able to play for us for like maybe 4-8 games or half a season. So like what he's just be taking up a roster spot that we might really need at that time. Yeah, I'm done. Kick it out. Kick the plan.
Yeah, I just couldn't see Bisciotti ever taking a shot. I don't care how good the player is. Once he took the stance that he took with Ray Rice against domestic violence, anything that rhymes with domestic violence, he's not going to take a chance on, right? Like I just can't see him doing that. It doesn't make sense to me. Scott, I know
domestic violence.
Yeah, right. I just can't see him taking a chance on it. Doesn't make sense to me. Scott, you were kind of high on him and the potential of him and the impact on the team. How are you feeling about it now?
So look, I get what everybody's saying from a pure, and I think that's where we all agree. From a pure talent standpoint, he's our number one wide receiver walking straight in the building. Now you got to cover Antonio Brown and Hollywood Brown. Oh, people are going to be throwing to Miles Boykin. Guess what? He still is going to be able to
that's great for Madden. That's great on Madden.
It is. I get it. I think if they were to do it, I think Garnett, coach, you guys hit the nail on the head. This is a fully incentive laden deal. He has to, he can get $3 million, all incentive based. He has to work up when we get to, six wins in the season and you've had X amount of catches, then here you go. Outside of that, give his butt the league minimum. That's what
he's not going to do it for the league minimum. He's got the league minimum sitting in his couch cushions.
But if he gets the league minimum and the rest is incentive based, now he has that drive to stay out of trouble and to get the money. And that's the only way that he's getting the money. But it's never going to happen. Like you said, Bisciotti's never going to go for that stuff.
Yeah. It's a pipe dream. And the perfect example of like perfect is that I cannot let go of that Tennessee Titan playoff game, all because of the reason why. If only we had a sure-handed route running number 2 receiver, that game would have been a complete blown out, like by us, I believe so. And that's what we were lacking big time watching this game. Where the speed was not doing the job, Boykin wasn't doing the job. Like anybody that was across from other than Hollywood was like, it was just game over, man. Straight up.
Last thing I'm going to ask before we sign off here, it's got to be about the secondary, right? So we knew how good this secondary was last year. We knew that there were going to be some potential losses. We thought that maybe we might lose Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith, in my opinion, I thought he would get an $8, maybe $9 million deal as a starting cornerback somewhere else. Well, that didn't happen. And Eric DaCosta weaved his web of magic yet again and kept Jimmy Smith in the fold. How excited are you guys to have this secondary coming back in the form that it is, and getting Jimmy Smith back on the $6 million type deal that he's on? Coach, what's your response to Jimmy Smith coming back in the secondary?
I'm excited because we got to have guys to match the Chiefs. We got to.
Right.
We got to have DBs to match the Chiefs. I think that move was solely to make sure we got enough able bodies and not just Joe Blows out there to cover the track team that the Chiefs can throw out there.
Right. Now, do you think he takes on kind of a similar role that Brandon Carr had last year, where he's kind of that rotational guy as need type basis? Do you see him kind of having that same role?
I really think he's going, depending on how Tavon is, he's going to be the 4th corner. And okay. I think when he comes into the game, like say they're in 4 wide, I think when he comes in, he'll be the other slot guy, him and Tavon. And then I'm sorry, I said it wrong. I think Marlon and Tavon will be the slot corners, and Jimmy and Peters will work outside. So I think he's going to be a rotational piece when they go 4 wide, and then in nickel packages, he'll work in depending on the 3 receivers that are out there, because you don't want Tavon matched up on like a what's the kid from like an AJ Green or something like that when they
right,
throw
big
out like
body.
that slot. Yeah.
Right. Garnett, what's your take on Jimmy Smith in the secondary, man?
You guys, do you guys know the interception record for a team, like the team interception record?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I see where you're going with this one.
I say less after that. Then I feel like with the front 7 we're building, and then with a run dominant time possession offense we have, I mean everything's going to work out in our favor for that secondary. I love Tavon. I don't trust Tavon, too injury prone, which is funny. You know, Jimmy Smith ain't never really played a full season in a while, but with the rotation of him and Peters and Humphrey, it's perfect. It's a perfect combination because if we want to line him up against a Travis Kelce type, I believe he could be able to do that flawlessly. And so I'm sold. I'm completely sold.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. You know, this defense, it's amazing how different they were when Jimmy was in the rotation and when he wasn't in the rotation, regardless of how many snaps he was playing. But this secondary was so much better when Jimmy was in the fold. And then you add Tavon Young back to the mix. I'm hopeful that he comes back. He's 100%. I mean, we paid this guy top nickel corner money for a reason, right? The guy is a damn good nickel corner. If he could stay healthy, man, this secondary is just going to be legit. And I know, Scott, you and I have talked on the show for really the last, I think, year and a half about the potential for Jimmy getting a little bit more exposure at safety, because he hasn't played safety in his career. I think just from a pure football IQ, his size, his athleticism could be an easy transition for him later in his career. We saw this happen with Rod Woodson later in his career, where he transitioned from corner to safety. Is that what you're kind of seeing? Maybe that could happen with Jimmy Smith to extend his career?
Yeah, and I think it all is going to come down to, you know, Coach, you hit on it with Tavon Young. You know, how does he come out? How healthy is he? You know, is he able to produce at the level he was producing before the injury? If he's able to do that, then I think you see, to Coach's point, him move into that rotational piece. But at the same time, if he's not, I really fully anticipate him making that transition. He even said it in an interview that he did with BaltimoreRavens.com about making that transition to safety, and he expects himself to be playing more of those. He expects himself to be playing the slot, like you said, Coach. So I really think You see a lot more movement to safety, which is it's right to Garnett's point. You're going to see Jimmy Smith, who's got such a high football IQ, that you're going to see him jumping routes, and he's going to be able to jump routes just like Marcus Peters has, but he's going to be able to do it from that safety position and be able to come up. The other thing I expect, and the other true piece that I expect out of this with him making that transition to safety, expect Wink to throw in a bunch more safety blitzes. We saw him do it last year with Jimmy Smith and rushing Jimmy Smith up on that line. They did it a few times with Marlon, and Fred, I got pissed off when they did it with Marlon, because then you're putting Jimmy on their number one guy when it really should be on Marlon on that guy. Right. Jimmy rushing that guy, rushing the line. He needs to be doing some of the heavy lifting down there when you're trying to do that, and you're going to rush your safety. So for me, I fully expect him to make that jump and that move to the transition there.
I think the safety thing will kind of play out depending upon how they do in this draft, because right now we really don't have a whole lot of depth at safety outside of Elliott, who's coming back from an injury. We did re-sign Anthony Levine, which I think is one of the more underrated signings of the offseason too, just because of the value that he brings and his flexibility to be a linebacker or safety and the versatility you get out of him in special teams. But outside of that, they really don't have a whole lot of depth at safety. What's your guys' thoughts, and Coach, what's your guys' thoughts about potentially using Jimmy Smith at safety? Do you see that ever happening?
First question, I have a question first. Is it Clark naturally a safety?
Clark was naturally a safety, yes.
Okay, so in my mind, depending on, because I think we're going to draft inside linebackers. So in my mind, I include Chuck in that safety. So I think we have depth, but I think Jimmy.
Well, I'm assuming Chuck is your starting strong safety, right? I mean, if Earl is your free safety,
mm-hmm.
starting free safety, and Chuck is your starting strong safety, behind them, all you have is Deshaun Elliott and maybe Anthony Levine in that role right now.
Yeah, so moving Jimmy there, it works. It puts your best 5 to 6 DBs and without a label on the field. Because I know in real life it's different, but for me, Jimmy plays safety on Madden. I get Jefferson out of there, and I run Jimmy out there.
Right. Well, Garnett, what's your thoughts on it?
Perfect. Hey, he hit it right on the dot. Especially with the Chuck Clark, we use him in more of in the sub packages, like the race car package, more than anything inside the box, which always let Carr be the strong safety or just the safety over that side. So basically, he's just be fulfilling whatever Carr duty was, but just at a younger, more versatile stage of his career, I believe. So that's that simple.
Yeah, I agree. You guys got anything else you guys want to hit on before we sign off? Any other topics I didn't bring up you guys want to talk about?
Gay will be coming to us. I don't care what anybody says.
You are super high on that guy. I think he's a great value pick, especially if we don't get one of those top tier guys in that first round that, a lot of people were pegging to us. I think Willie Gay, outside of the few red flags that he has, just athletically, I think he'd be a good fit for this team. I also think, and it's not just because of his connection to his brother, but I do think that the Orr brother late in the 7th round would be a steal of a pick for the Ravens to get. Cause I mean, everything I'm seeing in all these mocks has him potentially going undrafted, which just blows my mind. Cause when you watch his game tape, he's so explosive and he has the ability to create pressure that we've never seen from the inside linebacker position since Ray, really. And even Ray didn't have that much of a pass pressure effect. Coach, what's your opinion on linebacker?
Did you guys know that Willie Gay is bigger and faster than Queen and Murray?
I didn't know he was faster. I knew he was bigger in size. Yeah.
Yes, faster.
You already knew I.
But as far as middle linebacker, I think we need to get 2.
Yes.
2 guys. No matter what the combination is or who everybody out there loves, we need 2. Need 2.
Yes. Perfect. A lot of people look. If you haven't, I know Coach probably know, but Brett, I want to say Jacob Phillips from my LSU that was playing right beside Queen. He is the thumper, the first and second down thumper that we need. He's a war daddy. Just like how Orr is, I call those guys war daddies. In the trenches, they do all the dirty work, and they let all the flashy finesse guys get all the play. But yeah, we need somebody like that for real.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, I appreciate you guys all taking the time out to hop on this like last minute throw together stream. It's always fun to catch up with you guys, man. It's hoping this draft still goes as planned. I would think that if they were going to push it back or cancel it, I think they would have done that by now. But it's going to be an interesting draft this year for sure, considering all the challenges, I guess, that's presented for everybody. But you know what? The challenges are consistent for everybody. Nobody has a competitive advantage over anything at this point. So it is what it is. You kind of make do with what you do, and hopefully this situation takes care of itself and we're not looking at the potential delay of week 1. That's all I'm hoping for.
The funny thing is, however they do the draft, the ratings are going to be through the roof.
Absolutely.
Everybody's at home and there's nothing else on TV.
Absolutely.
Most watched draft in history.
Right.
Did you hear Adam Schefter's I guess his like not projection, but his ideal situation was to try to draw this thing out because there's no other sports, was having a round a day. So having a solid week for the draft. It would be round 1 one day, round 2 the next day, round 3. I think I'd be for it. It would give teams more time to evaluate and try to like make decisions versus rushing, and it would draw it out. I mean, what the hell else are we going to watch? And football fans would tune in every day. And I think if the NFL is going to make money off of anything, because they're not going to have the money from people being there at the event, that would be a way to supplement that.
Yeah, that's the TV money right there.
Right.
I was just saying ESPN is going to be all over that if they did something like that. And not to mention, you could put that in prime time almost every night on ESPN. Yep. What's ESPN? What else is ESPN going to run?
Right.
Just do it. Do it and sign a prime time deal with them to do it. Like, why is this still a question?
ESPN and with guys playing 2K on TV the other day.
Right.
Hey, I got an idea. It's sponsored by Nike. Just do it.
And with the society that we have now, with most people suffering from some form of ADHD, having it simplified to one round a day might help people stay tuned in longer.
I mean, you get your sports talk the next morning to focus on round 1.
Exactly.
You get 2 the next night, then focus on round 2. And you got all day to ponder if you want to trade or move up or move back. That'd be great drama.
Yeah.
Man, the suspense will be a thriller. I don't care what anybody, because we're literally waiting for our app to show us who we drafted or who made that phone call. It's going to be crazy, man. That's what I see it as. It's going to be crazy.
Either way, I think the Ravens clean up this year in the draft. I think that they're going to do a damn good job, man. I got all the faith in the world in Eric DeCosta and this team, regardless of all the challenges that we might have. I think we're going to do a hell of a job. And here's to another big year in 2020 for the Ravens, man. Hopefully far further than the first round of the playoffs, right?
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and appreciate all you guys again for taking the time to do this with us. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
See you guys.
See you guys.